You know, it's hard to beat a really nice old-fashioned vegetable soup. Using all the bits of vegetables that we have. We have carrots, courgettes, and this what I'm going to use. Now it doesn't matter what, you know, you could use anything, just some carrots, onions, leek, celery, whatever. But it's a great way, first of all, using up all the things that you might have in the fridge, all the little bits and pieces of all different things. But as well as that, it's a very, very nutritious way of eating and getting loads that are really good vegetable hit. You can eat quite a lot of soup. It's, again, nutritionally very, very dense, but not very calorific. I'm going to use some nice garden herbs. I just picked random ones, whatever. Just a little bunch of them. You kind of can judge these things up yourself. You know, fistful of herbs. I'm going to use a stock cube, a commercial, good quality vegetable stock cube. It just puts a little bit of flavor into soup. It makes it simple. But the processed soups that you see on the shelves, again, all of these ultra processed foods, there's no nutritional benefit to them. There's no way a little sachet of powdered soup is going to ever compete with what we have here, which is just good quality, nice vegetables. You know, as I said, I'm going to use some fennel here, some courgettes, celery, both celery sticks and celeriac, which is the kind of bulb celery, onion, spinach, carrots, leeks. And I'm going to kind of bring the texture together by using some potatoes. And there's nothing wrong with potatoes. Again, they're kind of vilified on, which is kind of silly because potatoes are a very, very nutritional veg. And, you know, this is the kind of thing that you can eat. You know, it's just a great filler-upper. And, you know, it's the kind of food that our grandparents ate. And they had very, very few problems, you know, from a dietary perspective. You know, they were in many ways far healthier than many of the people are today. And this is the kind of food they thrived on. You know, good quality soups, you know, and very good, well-cooked, home-cooked foods and so on. So, anyhow, without further ado, I'll just get on to this one now. Again, many soups, they're made in a very similar way. So, just following this technique, you can vary around all different ingredients, and after a while you just start to master whatever way you want to make a soups. You know, this is, you know, it's a good one to have in your kind of culinary arsenal. So what I've popped in there is about a teaspoon of coconut oil. And the trick with soups is this first stage, which is just sweating down those vegetables, not frying, sweating, which means that you want a bit of steam. So we're going to be putting the onions, and I'm going to be blending this. So onions and some garlic. I just chop those garlic cloves in half. And I'm just going to start sweating those onions. I'm also going to add in my carrots, my celery, and my celeriac. Now, celery or celeriac doesn't really matter. It's what you have handy. Also into this, I'm going to add my leeks, about a half a leek here. And my fennel. It's all about getting those vegetables in here, you know. Add a pinch of salt into that. And that'll help it kind of release the flavours from the vegetables a little bit. I'm also just going to add my courgettes here as well at this stage. And now what I'm going to do is add a little drop of water. And I'm going to let those vegetables with the lid on a moderate heat start to render themselves down. I like to use a nice heavy kind of casserole dish with this. So, lid on, and just let them cook away themselves. You'll know, you know, keep an eye on it. You don't need to leave the lid on. Take it off every now and again, stir it up. Don't let them catch on the bottom. And after a while, they're going to start cooking down really nicely. And instead of me trying to explain, I'll just show you in a minute. So I haven't allowed this to cook for about 10 minutes, just to kind of start it off a little bit. You can see it's just rendering down nicely there now. A little bit of heat coming to these. And now I'm just going to add my potatoes. I've just peeled these potatoes and just roughly chopped them up. They're going to be acting as kind of the thickening agent, and also they'll add a nice little flavour boost onto this as well. Just while it's open as well in my pot, I'm just going to add a little bit of black pepper, because I like a little bit of black pepper. You don't like it, you don't need to use it. Again, don't get too caught up in in bits and pieces, you know, and worrying about food. There's not a lot to go wrong, and even if it does, it's not going to be the end of the world. So I'm just going to let that cook away there for a few more minutes until all those veg are rendered nicely down, because this is where you develop the flavor of a soup. So as I'm just letting that just cook down now, and now you can see all that lovely, it's rendering, I think is probably the correct term, just breaking down those vegetables, developing flavor. You can see that they're becoming nice and soft, but again, as I've mentioned, with a soup, this is the point that you're developing the flavor. Now, into that now, I'm going to add my stock cube. Just normal good quality organic stock cube. Again, you could just use water if you didn't want a stock cube, but it just helps the flavor a little bit. And it's only a vegetable stock cube I'm using there as well. Not hugely, or you could have a vegetable stock as well, but again, with all these vegetables, the vegetable stock probably is a little bit pointless. Or just water, perfectly, all good. Another good thing with this is, because this soup is using potato and all vegetables, it will actually freeze very, very well. When you use a flour in the soup to thicken it, it will never freeze, because flour doesn't freeze. It kind of goes, separates and just goes a bit clunky. But when it's all vegetables, no problems at all there. Now I'm going to just, into this, I'm going to add the rest of my veg. I have a little bit of, I'm going to be blending this, so I'm just going to throw them all together. A little bit of oregano, a little bit of fresh thyme, a little bit of sage, just a little, bring a little bit of interest into the dish. And now I'm just going to add some water, and I'm just going to just cover the soup, the vegetables with water. I don't want to swamp them, just about cover it. And then bring that up to a nice simmer. A little splash more because it is a soup. Bring it up to a nice simmer and let that simmer away until all of the vegetables become tender and they're good for pureeing. Now, having just simmered that away until all those vegetables become nice and tender, as you can see, everything is just breaking apart easily. I'm finally going to add in my spinach. It needs the least amount of cooking. And again, you can just check your seasoning. If you think it's necessary, you could add a piece of salt or pepper. But again, you'll probably find that I wouldn't really season it too much. Maybe let people just get the seasoning on it themselves. But anyway, I'm just going to let that render down just literally for 1 minute with the lid on. And then just using the old hand blender, give it a blending. So, that's all you need, and this is pretty much it. The old hand blenders are great for this kind of thing, so you don't have to mess up a liquidizer. So I'm just going to blend that away, and then just nice little blending. You get this lovely, thick, luscious soup, which, you know, again, extremely nutritionally dense, full of fiber, full of vitamins, minerals, all the good stuff, but not full of calories. So you can be quite free to eat this soup. And again, you could vary any ingredients. Again, the potato just adds a nice thickness and texture to it. And that's pretty much it. That's our basic, good old-fashioned vegetable soup. And then all I need to do is plate this up. Just a nice, generous few spoonfuls or ladlefuls of my soup. And I just got some fresh chives from the garden, just because I have them. Don't need them. And you can just put a little sprinkling of the chives on top there. And that's pretty much it. Good old-fashioned and very, very satisfying and healthy vegetable soup.